What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So one of the earliest trainings that I did on this channel was how to create image cards properly in Oxygen. Well, a lot has changed since then. I've been focusing a lot more on accessibility as of late, and that tutorial is no longer relevant. We need to create a 2.0 version of that tutorial, and that's what we're going to do today. And while that was named how to create image cards properly in Oxygen, this actually applies to any cards that you may be creating. So if you want to create cards that have fundamentally better HTML structure and are far more accessible and are far more scalable, then you definitely want to watch this tutorial, and you want to take notes, and you probably should build alongside me. Maybe watch it once through, but then actually build alongside me and do each thing step by step as we go through this. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and screen share. Let's dive right in. This is the design of the example card that we are going to be using. This is a team member card. It has a featured image, which needs to be a real image. It has a heading for the person's name. It has a little tagline, their position at the company. It has a little bio paragraph, and then it has these icons for their social profiles, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And while this seems like a very, very, very simple thing, and let me actually double check my recording here and make sure that we're good to go. Okay, we are. While this seems like a very simple card, when you bring accessibility, when you bring proper HTML5 structure into the picture, things become a lot more complicated than they seem. And there is a lot to learn here, and there is a lot to know, thus the reason we're doing a tutorial on this. So I am now going to hop over to our training environment, and we're going to get to building. The first thing I'm going to do is add a section. I'm going to try to use automatic CSS as little as possible here. I want this to be a tutorial that's available for everybody. Even if you don't have automatic CSS, you're going to be able to easily follow along. The only thing I'll use ACSS for is to just quickly make the grid that, if you see here, the grid that these cards are in, the 3-column grid, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and add that grid now. And there's, right off the bat, some interesting things that we have to talk about. But let me whip this grid up. So it's going to be a 3-column grid. That's grid 3. It's going to be 1 column on medium-sized devices. It's going to have a gap of M. Okay, so I now have a responsive 3-column grid that I can add another div to right here, which is going to be our first card. And I'm going to open our structure panel, and I'm going to try to remember to label everything as we go through this as well. So we have our section. This is going to be our team members. And then we have this div, which is our team member grid. All right, and then we have this div, which is our card, and we'll say team card, whatever. Okay, so you can kind of see the structure there, and if I duplicated that card, 2 more times, it would put them side by side, and they would all be equal size, and yada, yada, yada. Okay, you get the point. Now, here's the first thing that we have to understand about cards and accessibility and HTML5 structure, and these kind of blend together, HTML5 and accessibility, best practices and standards. A card is technically, in HTML5, an article, okay? So you would actually apply, and I'm going to go here to this div, and we'll give this a class just so you can see better here, and we're going to talk about classes and scalability with these classes, but I'm just going to say team card right here, okay? You could do bio card, you could do, whatever makes the most sense to you, but that's semantically accurate, go ahead and go with that. But I'm going to choose team card. And my team card, according to the standards, is an article. Now, an article is, don't think like blog article, right? Think about a standalone piece of content that can exist off of the website somewhere else, right? So this team member has a bio. It doesn't matter where the bio could be on this website, the bio could be on another website. We're kind of signaling that this is a standalone piece of content. However, if your cards appear in a list and like there's going to be multiples, and you see here where there's 3 of them, and that because they're in that structure with others surrounded by other cards of the same type, there is a context created. And the context is, yes, this is kind of a standalone bio, but this section is a section of team members. And in order to have a section of team members, we have to have multiple team members. We're not just talking about one team member here. We're talking about all of our team members. When that happens, when that context is created of there's multiple and the existence of one relies on the existence of others, they are more technically should be in a list. They should be more technically in a list. So this is actually a UL, an unordered list with LIs inside of it, list items. Okay, so I'm going to go over here, and instead of putting this as an article, I am going to create use custom tag, and I'm going to put an LI tag on that. That is a list item tag. This is going to be a list. My wrapper now, I'm going to go to my ID. My wrapper now needs a custom tag of, well, thank you, Oxygen, of UL. Okay, so we see UL is the wrapper, LI is inside. And I'll take a look at the structure on the front end in just a second so that you can see this, okay? But you also see one issue right off the bat is, and I'm just going to quickly add a background color to this just so we can see it on the page. And I'll just add a random text element for now so that it actually takes up some space. Okay, so I'm going to hit save. We're going to go to the front end and check this out. All right, so I'm going to inspect. And you can see, I'm going to bring this up here. Perfect. And I'm going to try to zoom in for you a little bit more. Okay, here's our structure. So we have our UL right there. This is what Oxygen does when you use those custom tags. And this is appropriate because this is a list of cards. It is not a standalone card, okay? The cards rely on other cards. And with accessibility, screen readers do a really good job of navigating lists of items, right? So this actually helps out in the accessibility area as well. So you have your UL, which is your unordered list, and then you have your first LI inside of it, which is your team card. And you can see the UL has the grid 3, but Oxygen applies default styling to ULs. And you can see that we have, I don't know where it's going to say we actually have it, but let's see, row gap width. There is a margin or a padding on this UL. There's the UL right here. I don't know why it's not explicitly saying that that's what's causing that padding, but I can prove it to you. And we are going to come over here and we are going to give this team member grid a class. So I'm going to say team wrapper. You can do that. That should be fairly semantically accurate. It is the wrapper for our team cards, so it's going to be called team wrapper. And remember, team wrapper is also the UL. In fact, I'll show you that on the front end. So I'm going to go, and I'm trying to go slow. I want to kind of over-explain this because it is a little bit technical. So you can see team wrapper right there is on the UL. Okay, so if I give team wrapper, now I'm over in WP Codebox here. This is where I write my custom CSS these days. Let me actually try to do it here just to make this easier. Maybe we don't have to overkill this. So it's not margin, it's padding. Okay, so there was padding on my UL, which has the class of team wrapper. So by putting 0 padding left, I can get rid of that padding because I don't want that padding, right? That padding is just going to create some weird little gap over to the left in front of my grid. So I take away that with padding 0. Now what I can do is I can take away my text and we can actually talk about this card structure. Let's go to, help if I pulled Figma back up again. So you see we have a card. The image does not, this is very important, the image does not stretch to the edge of the card. So it's contained inside. It has a little bit of a border, very light border going around the outside. It has a box shadow as well. So we're thinking about the structure that we need. And what I like to do is with a card, because a card is a self-contained element, it can have a, you want to think of it as like having a header and a body and a footer, kind of like a web page does almost. And you contain the content inside of those inner divs, right? So we're going to need one div here for what I call media, because we don't necessarily know if this is going to be an image or it's going to be a video. So media is just a nice term that kind of encompasses all of that stuff. So we're going to have a media container. We're going to have a body container that's going to contain our content. And then we're going to have a footer container, which houses our icons right here. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and add 3 divs to this card. So we're going to go div number 1, div number 2. I'm just going to duplicate div number 3. If I can duplicate again. Okay, duplicated it twice. There we go. All right, so I'm just going to name these real quick. This is going to be our media. This is going to be our body, and then this is going to be our footer. Okay, perfect. So now what I want to do is on all of these, and I'm going to give them, we're using BIM now. And if you don't know what BIM is, go watch my tutorial on BIM naming for classes. We're going to do team card _, and this is the media, right? Media wrapper. We'll call it media wrapper. And then this will be body wrapper. So I'll do team card body wrapper. And then, and you can shorten these if you want to, if it makes more semantic sense to you to just say media, body, footer, whatever. So this is going to be team card footer wrapper. You can just use the standard terms by themselves, okay? Doesn't really matter. You can do whatever makes the most sense to you. So I'm going to do 100% width on all of these, okay? And I'm doing this on the classes, 100% width, 100% width, okay? Footer wrapper, width, 100%. Okay, perfect. So now I have a card with 3 sections inside of it, effectively. Now let's talk semantics. You can also, what I say is when this is an actual article card. So if I choose the parent wrapper here, we go back to the ID so we can see what's going on. If this tag said article, then I would more likely put like an actual footer tag on this where you can drop down and choose footer, right? Things like that. But when it's just a simple LI, it's in a list with other items. I just leave it as divs, okay? So we're gonna go team card is our LI. And then we have media, that's just a div. Body is just a div. Footer is just a div, all right? Now someone may come along and argue, oh, well, you can really put, header and footer in there, whatever. I don't think at this granular level of detail makes all that much of a difference. When it is an article, I do that. But when it's a list item, I tend to not do that. Okay, so now what we want to do is think about how we create, and we'll go slow so we can talk about general structure here as well. You can see that there's a gap or padding around the entire card. All of those 3 things that I just added need to have some padding around them. The easiest way to do that is just to put padding on the card itself. So what I'm going to do is we'll go back in here. I'm going to grab the parent wrapper, the team card, and I am going to use padding on the inside. And I'm going to use padding, EMs for padding. And we'll try 1 em of padding and we'll apply all. And that is going to create almost an identical gap to what we have in our Figma file. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take away our background color, which I just threw on there with a CSS class. And now you can see more of our structure. But let's take care of this little border that we need to have now. So you can see that very light border on the outside. This will give our card a little bit more structure. So I'm going to go to borders. And for color, I'm just going to choose like a light gray. And unfortunately, we are going to get some lag here. Let me do, come on, man. All right, let me do it up here. I'm just going to make a EEE border. Because if I just start typing in this box, it's going to get even worse. So that's going to be EEE, 1.5 pixel width, and solid. Solid. Come on, solid. There we go. Okay. So now we have our border. Let's take care of our box shadow as well. So we're just styling things up a little bit here. Effects. We're going to go to box shadow. And shadow color is going to be, we'll just take that down to, it'll be black and then maybe like, I don't know, 15%, somewhere around there. We'll do a 2 pixel horizontal, 2 pixel vertical, a 30 pixel blur, 20 pixel blur. Let's do 30, and then let's drop this down to 12. All right, and then shadow spread's going to be maybe like -1. Okay, so we've got a nice little box shadow there. I don't know what the exact box shadow styling is. It's actually a bit lighter on here. So we can tweak that a little bit more. We don't want to be in borders. Oh, that was a mistake. Effects, more lag introduced that we don't need. All right, I'll do 10, and then we can do more like 40 on the spread. That's a much softer shadow. Now we need to see if there's any border radius, and there is a very, very slight border radius. So I'm going to go back into the borders area, and I'm going to come down to border radius, and we'll just use M on this as well. I'm going to do 0.25 M. That should give it a nice, very, very subtle border radius. Okay. The next thing that we can do is we can introduce our actual media. So I am going to grab, this is my media wrapper. I'm going to go ahead and add an image here. And this image, I'm going to browse for it. It's on my desktop. I've got all 3 of those people, their photos. Oh, I actually don't. Wow. Okay, well, we're just going to have to, I have 2 of the same person. So we're going to have 2 of the same person. All right, I'm going to start with this guy right here. So I'm going to throw him in. Select image. There we go. And then if you take a look, remember, he's in the media wrapper. Okay, you can see that over here in the structure. We can do headshot right there. Okay, so that's that. And I'm going to immediately put a class on that. So we're going to do team card _, and we can do headshot just like that. Perfect. Next thing we're going to do is come down to this body wrapper, and we're going to see what needs to go in here. It needs to be his name. It needs to be his little title here, and it needs to be his description. So we're going to do a heading. And because other content would likely be in the section like an H2, I'm going to go ahead and make these H3s. There is a little bit of a debate whether these should be H2s themselves or H3s. H2s because they're in a list and they're introducing a list item, which effectively is somewhat separate from the section that these cards are actually in. I still prefer H2 is going to be my section heading up here if I had one, and then these would then follow as H3s because they are part of that team member section, right? But you can debate with me if you want to debate with me, whatever. At the end of the day, I don't really think it matters. I do think it is potentially somewhat confusing to have an H2 and then more H2s in the same section when these are like subcomponents of that. So that's why I go with H3s. That's all I'm saying. Okay, what am I doing? I need to get, all right, a tagline and then a little paragraph here. Okay, so I'm going to add a text element. That's going to be our little tagline. And then I'm going to add another text element. That's going to be our bio. Okay, so I've already changed this to H3. This tagline, remember, what does this need to say for him? All right, well, web developer. Great. All right, so we're going to make this say web developer, I think, if I can get it highlighted. Web developer, just like that. And then his bio is just going to be some lorem ipsum for right now. And we'll take about, maybe that's too much, I don't know. Let's paste that in. Yeah, it's a little bit more than I wanted. Okay. Yeah, we'll go with that. Okay. All right. And then before I do any styling here, I need to give these things obviously custom classes, right? So this is going to be team card _, name. And then we have this is team card _, position. And then we have this as team card _, bio, just like that. All right, next thing we can do is start styling this bio up. So I want to go typography. I want to shorten up this line height, right? You can see that the lines are closer together here. And I want to scale the font size down. I'm not going to use automatic CSS here. I'm just going to use rims, and we'll try maybe 1. I think 1.8 was what it was at. So we'll do 1.6 there. On the web developer font size, we'll also do 1.6. I'm going to choose rem, and we'll go 1.6 on that as well. I believe this heading needs to be a little bit smaller. So we'll go rem of 1.8. No, 2.2. Okay, let's go 2.2. See all the guessing, like a lot of guessing game. Like that's, what's good about automatic CSS is there's no guessing, right? You're using, it's either small, medium, large, extra small, whatever. So you want to go up, you want to go down, and then it all follows a mathematical scale. So it all looks good straight out of the box. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to space these items evenly, and I want to get all these things centered. And let's get this guy's name in here as well. So it's Philip Hunt. All right, what's up, Philip? Philip Hunt, just like that. All right, so, before we actually style anything, we got to go back to HTML structure here. So we don't want to forget, and I try to do these things as I add them so that I don't forget, because there's a lot of things to think about. So this is not a div. Right? It doesn't really make sense that this is a div. So what I choose to do is I make this a span. Okay, so that's a span tag. And then this is actually a paragraph tag. So I'm going to choose a paragraph tag here. And you're going to see once again that Oxygen has added some default styling for that. And unfortunately, it's not just like margin. It's a logical property is what it's called. It's margin block start and margin block end. And I'm not sure if we're going to be able to see that on here anywhere. Here's the P. Where is it? Okay, yeah. It's tough to find because there's so much stuff going on. But just trust me that it's margin block start and margin block end. So what I want to do is for all of our team cards, so I'm going to come over here and write some CSS. For all of our team cards, I want to make sure that P's have margin block start of 0 and margin block end of 0. Now, this isn't just, notice, this is not, wow, come on, Kevin, type. This is not just CSS, this is actually Sass. And the way I'm able to nest items in Sass means that I can target my team card, and then I can say if it's a P inside of a team card, I want to style it like this. So if that looks weird to you, it's because this is Sass and not CSS. And if you're confused about that, go watch my tutorial on how to write Sass in Oxygen in WordPress, okay? I'm going to hit Command S to save that. And if I go to the front end, you're going to see that my P, and this is live updates. That's why I love this, right? You get the benefits of Sass, but you also don't have to reload pages and refresh stuff. As soon as I save, it's instantly updated over here. So I can see that my P, my paragraph, no longer has that margin block start and margin block end spacing. So now what I can do is on my body wrapper, I can set this to vertical. I can set everything to center, and I can also add a gap. And I will do a gap of 1 em here, maybe 0.75 em, just like that. And then I will also make sure that my typography is centered so that everything is truly centered inside of this card. Now, you have some options here, right? Because I've put everything in self-contained divs, I can actually use the same technique we just did on the card itself of setting everything to vertical and then using a gap. And we can do a gap of maybe like 1 em, and that'll start to space everything out evenly. I can also maybe do 1.5 em if I want more spacing in there. But you can see that we're starting to get to exactly where we want to be with this card. Okay. Next thing I want to do, if you notice, one thing we forgot, this has to match on my border radius here. So if you look, I went on the team card and I added a border radius of 0.25 em. If you want to add the same one here, you're going to have to come do that manually. And then the problem, I'm going to introduce a new mini lesson within this major lesson here. Watch this, okay? I'm going to put this at 0.25 em. Notice that my image and my card have the exact same border radius. However, if the client comes along, which often happens, and says, we want those corners to be a little bit more rounded, just a little bit. Okay, so you've got to grab your team card, you've got to go over to borders, you've got to change this, 0.5 em. And then you've got to remember to also change this one. And you may actually forget that, especially, remember, we go back to the 3-month rule all the time. 3-month rule is you build something, You leave it for 3 months, you come back to it. Are you going to remember the intricacies? Are you going to remember some of these things that aren't really linked together and scalable? They haven't become globalized, right? So the answer is no. You're going to forget. There's going to be things that you mess up, right? So I don't like the fact that I have to change those two things independently of each other. They should always match. If they should always match, then this is a good idea, really good use case for variables or custom properties. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how this works. I'm going to take out the 0.5em there. I'm going to take out the 0.5em here. So I'm going to go to borders on this card. Now my card and my image have no borders. I'm going to go over to WP Codebox. I'm going to show you how to create a custom property. So we're going to basically declare a root styling. So you put a colon, you write the word root, and then you open the brackets just like you would do for anything else. And then all custom properties start with a double dash, right? So you do double dash and you're going to do card radius. And you can do a lot of things: card padding, card radius, card border. If you want all of your cards to be very, very similar, or really to match exactly, you can create as many of these as you want. I'm just doing this as a mini lesson to show you the power of variables and what a real world use case for these variables would be. And I'll do it with card padding as well, I think would be a good idea. So our card radius is going to be 2.5em and our card padding is going to be 0.5em. No, it was 1em was our card padding. So I have card radius, card padding. Let's also do this. Let's do card gap. And we'll do a 2em, well, we'll do a 1.5em gap on our card. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. So now I've declared my custom properties. Now, how do I use those custom properties? Well, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to first take off our gap, right? So because we're going to use a new custom property for that. And let's just do it right here. So I'm going to replace that 1.5em with var card gap. And you can see now that I have the gap that I had before, except I'm using a variable now. Now when I hit the image, I'm going to go ahead and go to borders, border radius, set it to none, and use a variable of card radius. So now all my cards can have the same radius, and so will this image right here. I'm still on my class, by the way. Now I'm going to go to my overall card. I'm going to also go to border radius here. I'm going to set it to none. I'm going to do var card radius. And now my card and my image have the exact same radius, and they will always have the exact same radius, even if the radius needs to change. So watch this. If it needs to be 1em, I go to card radius, change that to 1em and save. I go back. I now have 1em on my media and 1em on my card. So these are scalable now. They are what I call future-proof. They now pass the 3-month rule. 3-month rule says, hey, if that card radius needs to change, people are going to click on this. They're going to see borders, radius. They're going to see, oh, there's a variable. Okay, let me go into the code. There's the variable right there. We change it back to 2.5em because the client changed their mind once again and said, no, we don't like it that rounded. We want it back to the way it was. And now, look, both my media and my card exactly match, even though I just made the change. Okay. Now you can also see that my gap is nice and consistent, and it will be nice and consistent across all of my cards. I can go in here and I can use the same gap if I wanted to, though this gap would be a little bit too big if I use that variable there. And actually 0.65, 0.5, let's just do 0.6. Okay. All right, so we're looking pretty good here. The only thing I will say is that I don't like the fact that this kind of stretches all the way out. Notice that it stops. It's more padding that's more contained inside of there, okay? So one thing I can do is on left and right padding, I'm just going to go back to using ems here. We'll do a 1em and a 1em. And now you can see that I've brought that in a little bit more. You can also see that this text is lighter and this text is a little bit lighter. So we're going to go here to typography and to color, and we're just going to choose kind of like a lighter gray for our text team card position. Why is that? Okay, it is. I just wasn't getting gray enough. There we go. Let's bring it in there. Perfect. And then this one can be off over there. Not quite as light though, just a little bit lighter. All right, perfect. Now what we want to do is we want to tackle our, oh, by the way, we're not even close to done. And we haven't, the HTML structure, guys, is not even like, we still have a long way to go. So do not click out of this thinking, oh, I know where he's, all he's going to do now is the final little social icons. No. There's more things, all right? In fact, before we get to the social icons, there's more stuff that needs to happen here. This image happened to be a perfect square, but clients don't give you perfect squares, right? So one thing I want to do here is I want to either put an aspect ratio on this, or I want to do a height and a width if we truly want squares. The best way to do this is with aspect ratio. And so you can go to our team card headshot. Remember, I don't put custom CSS inside of Oxygen anymore, all right? So team card, now here's our nested Sass again, right? And actually, I want to replace this image real quick. Let's go to, because I want one that's not square, just to test this out real quick. So unsplash.com, and we're gonna type in headshot and see what we get. Okay, there we go, right there. So save image as, and we're just gonna do, it's AVIF if I do it that way. Let me download free. I think this does a JPEG. Yeah, okay. So this will be like headshot, just something super generic. Swoosh, real quick. All right, downloads, headshot, here we go. And I'm going to resize that to like 800. Let's do 1200. Maybe, if we use this somewhere else, it might need to be a little bit bigger. All right, so we're gonna do headshot, save, replace, perfect. And let's go to browse and drag this guy in and then select the image. All right, perfect. All right, what are we doing here? How did we get, no, tell me that's not a square photo. Oh my God, I chose a square photo. What am I doing? What am I doing? Okay, let's not do that. That was, whoo, man, that was terrible. That was tough. Okay, we're gonna choose her. All right, so female headshot. I should have named that not a square. God, I'm leaving this in. I'm not editing that out at all. All right, let's go 1200 width on that. Save and replace. Golly, not my finest moment, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, browse. Thinking about too many things. Thinking about way too many things. All right, let's get her in here. Select the image. And I want you to see what happens. See, the card blows up, right? Like this card would be taller than other cards, and like it would look absolutely terrible, right? So what we have to do is we have to use aspect ratio to make this a square. So we're gonna hop back over, and because I'm using Sass and because I'm able to nest things, all I have to do is under team card use an ampersand double underscore, and I can target the headshot, and it's gonna write the CSS properly for me. All right, so I'm going to do an aspect ratio of 1/1. That's a perfect square. I'm going to give it a width of 100% because I'm going to say no matter what, get to the edge, right? Go all the way across. And then I'm going to use a object fit of cover because I don't want to warp the image, right? I'm manipulating the aspect ratio of the image, which means it'll squish or pull. I don't want any of that to happen, so I'm using object fit cover, which will make this behave like a background image. So let's hit save and then go see what that did. All right, so notice we have a perfect square, even though we didn't upload a perfect square. It is cropping in because that's how object fit cover works. But what we can do is adjust our object position. Because these are headshots, most of the data is going to be in the top 80% of the photo, or the top 20 or 30% of the photo. So what I'm going to do is object position, and the other good thing about WP Codebox is as you're writing, it's telling you here are your options for things, right? That doesn't happen when you're writing CSS and Oxygen. So object position is 50% left and right, but we want to do and I can never remember if it's 80% or 20%, which side I want to show. Okay, it's definitely not 80%. So it's 20%. This is the vertical part that I want to see, and there you go. And so, yeah, it might, crop the very, very tip of their head off. That's fine. If you look at professional headshots, oftentimes you will see a little bit of a crop like this, especially if they're trying to get in to more of a close-up. You're going to have to crop part of the head. So it's just, and I know clients complain about these things. to show them endless amounts of headshots where the top is a little bit cut off, because they exist. All right, I used to be a photographer. Like, you know, it is what it is. Okay, so while we're here working on this image, I want to make sure that we, because, you know, accessibility is important, we are adding our alt tags, right? So I'm going to come in and I want to see team card headshot. Let's go here, center position. You actually could have done object fit right here if you wanted to, as well as the position. They've added that as of Oxygen 4.0. And why am I missing? Like, why does it seem like there's no alt tag here? Do I just, I don't remember ever having to add this manually like this. So what am I missing? Media library. So with image URL, there's an alt text box. With media library, there's no alt text box. That makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. Okay, I'm just going to add it with an attribute then. So our alt text is going to be, and that's clearly not Philip Hunt. What's another name? We'll do it like Alicia Keys here. Alicia Keys. All right. So this is going to be my alt text. And by the way, when you're doing this with attributes, I almost always pin them to the front screen so that when I go to the primary tab, they're accessible to me and I don't have to constantly go to advanced attributes and then find them, right? They're right here on the primary tab. So I'm going to do Alicia Keys headshot. So I'm describing what the photo is, right? All right, so Alicia Keys is our web developer. She's got an alt text. Before I get into this, I do want to pause and go talk about a structural change that we need to make. For accessibility, and guys, by the way, we still haven't linked this, right, to her bio page yet. We've got a lot to do. There's a lot to think about when you're making these cards. Because how you link to her page is very important. How this card becomes a link or doesn't become a link, or what you're actually linking to, and the fact that we have other linkable items inside this card. Guys, it's a big discussion that we got to have. Very important stuff. So don't go anywhere. All right. So I don't want the image to come before the text in the HTML structure. I do want it to visually come first because that's what we're trying to design. But for accessibility purposes, we don't want the image to be announced before the person's name or like the title of the card or the heading of the card. Like, we haven't given any context yet. So really, structural wise, we need our, and I'm going to collapse these so you can see this better. We need our body content to come before our media content. And you're like, but Kevin, that looks ugly. It looks ugly, but it's structurally correct. The thing is we can still make it visually correct as well. We don't have to have this as our trade-off, right? So on my media wrapper, because I made this a flex item, right? I can simply come down, and I'm not going to do custom CSS. You would have to. I'm not going to do it here anyway. I'm going to do it over here in WP Codebox. But I wanted you to see what we're going to be targeting. It's the team card media wrapper. All right, so I'm going to come in here and nest under to target my media wrapper, and I'm going to simply say order -1. I saved it, and now we go back. And so very important thing has happened here. Structurally, and I'm going to prove this to you by going to view this on the front end. All right, see our card's coming along very nicely, right? So I'm going to inspect our element, and you're going to see that we have our UL. Here's our LI. I'm going to come in and look, my body wrapper is first, which puts my heading as the first thing in the DOM tree, right? So you come down here and you see what comes next is actually what's highlighted on the screen now. So visually, the image comes first, but structurally, the heading comes first. And that makes your card far more accessible. Okay, so that's a really good point that we've hit on there. I think what we can do now is we can go in and we can put our icons in. We still need to do our link. We're going to handle that in a moment. And that's a little bit more involved, okay? All right, so what we're going to do here with our team card footer wrapper is display this horizontal. We're going to have a middle alignment. And there's actually, for accessibility, a bunch of things that we have to do here. Okay, I want a link wrapper for these icons. I don't want to just add icons. I want a link wrapper for the icons. So what I'm going to do is add a link wrapper. Perfect. All right, and then we are going to add an icon. Perfect. And then we're also going to add one of the most important elements to this, text. And I know there's no text inside of the design that we've been looking at. However, there has to be text there to make this announce properly on screen readers. So this is, again, an accessibility feature, all right? So I'm gonna go ahead and make this let's give this classes first. So this is gonna be a team card __ icon wrapper. And then this is gonna be a team card icon. And then this is gonna be team card. This actually doesn't matter because it's not gonna be visible. So we're not even really gonna style it at all. All right, so the team card icon wrapper needs to be horizontal because I want to put the, in fact, I don't even know if sometimes Oxygen screws up in this regard. I'll just leave it the way that it is. Let's go with Facebook here as our icon. And let me see what our icons are styled like. So they are a circle with the thing inside of it, the little icon inside of it. So I'm gonna choose that icon right there, and I'm gonna make these solid. So all team card icons are gonna be solid with that inside of it. And the background color is going to be DDD. No, let's do like F5, 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 a very light gray. The icon color is going to be like 333. And then we want the icon size to be more like 32 pixels. This can be like 16. Now this needs to go down to 18. This needs to go down to 8. Okay, I think we're getting in the realm here of where we need to be. That looks very, very, very close. So this is gonna say follow Alicia Keys on Facebook. Perfect. Now what we need to do here is make this not visible for sighted users. It's only visible to screen readers, okay? So there is I'm gonna use automatic CSS because the code for this is quite complicated. So this is where, again, a framework like automatic CSS knows about and respects accessibility really comes in and saves the day. So I'm gonna put a class on this called hidden accessible, and I want you to see what happens. So we go up here and we type in hidden accessible. Boom. So now this is very unique to automatic CSS. I want to save and preview this on the front page. Okay. Notice that we do not have any text visible to normal sighted users, right? We go over here, we can see that there's something there. There's a little A. Automatic CSS inside of the Oxygen builder only adds a little A accessibility icon to alert you that there is accessibility text there. Because 3-month rule, you leave your project for 3 months, you come back, you need to change icons, add an icon. If that little indicator is not there, you will forget that there is accessibility text there. Or if another team member comes along and they're doing stuff in this card, they're gonna forget that they're not even gonna know. And it's not even a matter of forgetting. They're not even gonna know that the accessibility text is there unless they come over here and look inside of the structure panel. And I can name this accessibility text, right? And we can name this icon wrapper. Okay. Now, this is very, very important. And we're going to cover how these things are announced in just a little bit. But now that I've got this structured properly, I'm free to duplicate 2 more times. And then what I can do is I can center align these icons. And I want to check on the front end of how we're looking here. All right, so we've got our 3 icons. Let's go with our design. We're gonna need some padding in between or some spacing in between. So because this is a flex item, once again, I can simply go into gap, and we can try a gap of 0.5. And then I can quickly, while I'm here, just grab Twitter. And we'll put that little Twitter bird in, and then we'll do LinkedIn on this one. I'll put my in there. And now let's save and look on the front end and see if we've got this looking good. Perfect. Okay. So what I'm noticing is, let's go look at this card. There's a little bit more padding on the bottom than there is on the top because they didn't want those icons to be kind of so close to the edge down here. There's a couple ways I can handle this. Because I have my footer, team card footer wrapper, I can simply add a little bit of extra, like another 0.5 em or even a 1 em of padding to the bottom inside of my footer. I don't have to mess with my card padding, right? That's why I kind of structure things the way that I do. So now that looks really, really, really good. Okay. What we want to do is visually indicate here that we're going to go to hover, and then we're going to go color is going to be, I don't know, this. Let me just, so we're not choosing random colors. I'm just going to do var primary there. And then let's save. So we should get a nice little hover on that icon. There you go. And then you don't want to only create color in terms of your hover. So what we also want to do is probably on hover, add a little box shadow effect. So we'll go to effects, box shadow, and then I will choose that. And then we'll bring this down to, no, I don't want it to inset oxygen. I do not want it to inset. We'll bring this down to, 10%. We'll go 0, 0, blur 20, shadow spread 0. And once again, oh, this needs to be like 0.2. There you go. All right, 20% looks like it will work very nicely on that. Let's go save. And then let's check that on the front end. Okay, so we've got our little hover effect there. I still think that's a bit, instead of that, let's not do a box shadow. I'm gonna go effects. I can't, all right, I'm just gonna delete all these. I wish there was a reset, man. I really wish there was a reset. All right, I'm gonna go to border again. All right, team card icon. So team card, I'm just gonna do it in here because I'm boycotting the borders area. All right, so team card icon is gonna get, and then we need to do hover. Let me show you how we do this. So we do another ampersand hover and then open more brackets again. So this is gonna all write the CSS for me properly. So the hover on the icon is gonna be a border of 1 pixel solid, and then we'll do DDD, and maybe we go 1.5 pixel, but that might be too big. 1.5 pixel solid DDD on hover. So let's check out what we've got on the front end. Let's get rid of this box shadow on hover. I thought I did. Oh, I gotta save it, that's why. So my front end actually picks up those. There we go. Okay, we can't do border because border is actually changing the effective width of the element. Okay, so we are going to go back to box shadow. And I don't need to do that here. So just to keep everything as simple as possible, let's show you how I do this. So we're going to go to, and I'm keeping all this stuff in because as I'm designing and building things, I mean, this is life. This is life as a developer. So got to try some different things. You don't get it 100% right every single time. I'm going to go to effects, box shadow, shadow color. Let's do the DDD. And then horizontal offset is going to be 0. Vertical offset is going to be 0. Blur is going to be 0. Spread is going to be 1.5 pixels. All right, let's see if that works correctly. Let's refresh on the front end. There you go. So now it gets the effect without changing the effective width of the element, okay? Perfect. All right, so I like that. All right, let's think. We got to do some other things here. Oh, we didn't change our accessibility text. So follow Alicia Keys on Twitter. So I need to change that to Twitter. And this one, and also guys, because there's an A there, I can actually select it. So it's hidden, but because it has a representative here as an A icon, I can actually quickly click it here instead of having to choose it inside of the structure panel. This is going to say on LinkedIn. Okay, on LinkedIn. Perfect. And then I'm going to hit save. And we can actually test out our, well, I can't until I give this a actual link. So where's my link wrapper? Here's my icon wrapper. This needs to have at least a # in there. Icon wrapper, hashtag, icon wrapper, hashtag. Okay, save. Now we can go to the front end and I can actually test out some accessibility stuff here. Okay, so I'm going to go cover your ears. Here we go.
Toolbar, link, follow Alicia Keys on Facebook, link, follow Alicia Keys on Twitter, link, follow Alicia Keys on LinkedIn, list one item, link, follow Alicia, link, Follow Alicia Keys on Voiceover
All right.
off.
Okay, so the next thing we need to talk about is how do we get this? Let's pretend for a minute that Alicia has a bio page on the site, and we need a link to that bio page. We need to not make, here would be the mistake. Here would be the mistake, and I think I've taught this before, so pay attention because this is going to make a change here in the instruction. We need to not make this entire card a link. That is not the way you do it for accessibility purposes because it really messes with screen readers. So what we need, especially since these have their own links, so what we need to do is typically you make the heading of the card the link. All right, so what I'm going to do is click on the link wrapper icon here. I'm just going to use a pound sign and then add the link. And now you can see that we have linked this up. Now I don't want, let me grab that element right there. And we don't want it to be red. Okay, so now we're going to come over here and we're going to choose our, well, let's do our 333. So 333 and we're good. All right, so we're going to save changes on that. So now if we look at this on the front end, we can actually click Alicia Keys to go to her bio page if she had one. And we can also click these individually. And when we look at accessibility in a minute, you're going to see that it announces this first, and then it announces these icons separately, and the person could choose what they want to activate or to click on. So the challenge here is we've made this clickable, but if someone's navigating the website, right, they expect that a card itself is clickable. They don't expect to have to like come in here and find the exact thing that is linked up. They know that these icons obviously are probably links because it would just be dumb to have those as a visual thing without it being interactive. But they don't know necessarily that this is a link, even if I have a hover style on there properly, right? So we're going to go to hover and we're going to do var primary. So yes, on hover, they can see that that is a link. Let me go back to the front end. However, they didn't know that ahead of time. There's no indicator that this is a link. They hover over the card and they notice, oh, this isn't clickable. They're not going to like search every element to see what you can click, right? We want the entire card to be clickable. All right, so what we're going to do here is a little trick. And there's two ways to do this. You can put this code on the actual link wrapper itself. So if you gave this a class or something, you could do it. And that would only apply to this one kind of card. If you have other cards on your site, they're going to need the same technique. It's better to create a utility class. And so we're going to create a utility class called clickable parent. Okay. So clickable parent, just like that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into WP Codebox and we're going to write out this code. So remember, I've given the link wrapper, very important, not the heading itself. Choose the actual link wrapper that's around your heading, add the class clickable parent, and then we need to add some code. I'm not going to do this nested under team card because I want this to apply to every card on my website that I want to apply this technique to. So we're going to create a class called clickable parent. I'm going to open the brackets because I'm using Sass and we can do nesting. I'm going to do an ampersand and I'm going to do after to create an after pseudo element. Okay. Also very important here with your team card. Okay. We're going to do this as an absolutely positioned element. If your team card does not have position relative on it, it won't properly contain what we're about to do with our link expansion technique. So you need this position relative here, right? So if it doesn't have it, you can do it here. You could have done it on inside of Oxygen itself by going to layout and then coming down here to position relative. However you want to do it, you can, but this needs to be a relatively positioned element, this team card that you're applying this effect to. Any card that you want to apply this effect to needs to be position relative, okay? So my clickable parent is going to be, remember when you're writing custom CSS for pseudo elements, you always need content. So we're going to do blank content for this. We're going to do a display of flex. We're going to do a position of absolute. We're going to, and now the way you make an absolutely positioned element take up the entire parent element is top, right, bottom, left, all zeros, okay? So top 0, right 0, bottom 0, and left 0. Perfect. I'm now going to add a cursor pointer to this to make sure that everybody knows that it is nice and clickable. And we're going to go check it out on the front end here. Okay. So I am going to, I don't think I've saved this since I added the clickable parent class. Now I can refresh here and look at this. My entire card, guys, is clickable. How awesome is that? The problem you're going to notice is that, okay, Kevin, you made the entire card clickable. Great technique, great trick. But now they can't click on these items right here. But there's a fix for that. Have no fear. So I'm going to come in, and what we want to do is on our footer, because remember our footer contains our social links, right? I want to go very simple on that class footer wrapper, layout, put this as position relative. And since this comes after in the DOM, it comes later than this link, position relative will elevate it, even without Z and X, will elevate it above that absolutely positioned link expansion technique that we just did. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. So all I did is change that footer to position relative, and now it's going to be extracted above that floating link expansion technique that we just used. So the entire card is clickable, but so are the icons. Really, 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 really important here. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to apply a hover style to the entire card because we don't want the little cursor pointer to be the only indicator that this thing is clickable. So now what we're going to do is on our team card, and what's cool about this, even though we're using a link expansion technique, which takes a after pseudo element and covers the entire card, the hover effects can still be activated through that little layer right there that we've created. So you don't have to worry about doing anything crazy here. You can just apply hover styles like you normally would. So I'm going to do a hover style of, let's do effects, transform, add transform. We're going to do a, not a scale, we'll do a translate, Y, that's the vertical axis, of -1, minus 0.25 rem. All right, minus 0.5 rem, minus 1 rem, 1.5. How far do we want it to go? That's the question. Let's do minus 1.5 rem. Let's also, do we want to darken the box shadow that's on there? That's what I'm thinking about right now. So let's go to box shadow. Let's choose black, and let's choose 20%, 30%. I don't know how this is going to look yet. 2, 40, not inset, Oxygen. Quit doing inset all the time. Minus 1. Okay, that might be too dark. All right, let's switch away from hover and just see what our original was. All right, so there's our original. There's our hover. So it gets a little bit darker. I think that's going to look good. So let's go check this out on the front end. There you go. That's nice. I like the effect. However, I don't like the jumpiness, the jerkiness, right? So I'm going to go to team card hover. We're going to go back to the original, actually. And we're going to go to effects, transition, 0.35 seconds, timing function, ease in, out, all, 0 delay. Let's see what we've got now. Check this out on the front end. Nice and smooth. Nice and smooth. Okay. So that's looking really good. I think what we can do now, I mean, we've done almost all. Let's just see what these look like in a row. Remember, they're all going to be list items now. So we'll check out our structure in just a second. Perfect. Now, believe it or not, we still are not done because we have to test our keyboard accessibility, right? What happens when we try to keyboard navigate this area? So I'm going to do that right now by hitting tab. And you're going to notice that, all right, so if I was up here in my nav and I come down to the first item, it highlights Alicia Keys, the name, right? What I really wanted to do, because the entire card is clickable, is focus the entire card. And when the entire card is focused, I don't want it to also focus Alicia Keys, right? So we got to take another step here, and we're going to use a technique called focus within, all right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to WP Codebox here, and under team card, I'm actually doing this under team card now. We are going to use an @ so team card, focus within, and I want to style this. And I'm going to use basically something very similar, except I'm going to use, instead of an outline, which I typically use for focus styling, I'm going to use a box shadow because I want it to conform to the radius of the element that I'm focusing on, which outline does not do and cannot do. So I am going to use, you're going to see exactly what this does in a second. So focus within takes that focusable element, right, and kind of expands it to the parent element as well. So I'm going to do a box shadow here of 0, 0, 0, 1.5 pixels. So no offset, no blur. And then this is the spread of 1.5 pixels. And I want to do var primary. So it's my primary color. And let's just pause there and see what that's done. So I'm going to go to the front end and look at that. So when I go to focus on the card, it focuses on the entire card, right? But the problem is it's also focusing on Alicia Keys at the exact same time, and that looks really ugly, right? So we want to actually, when focus within is applied, we want to remove focus styling from the heading link. And this is the only link inside of the body wrapper. So that's what I'm going to target. Okay, so I'm going to say focus within, and when we're doing focus within, I want to also target, yes, this is gonna work. Okay, so when I'm targeting focus within, I want to do team card __ body wrapper A. So find a link, find a link inside of team card body wrapper when we're doing focus within, and make this, we're gonna do another ampersand, focus, open. So when that link is focusing, or basically what I want to do is remove the focus styles when focus within is happening, okay? So that is by default using an outline style. So I'm going to do outline none. So the A that's inside the team card body wrapper is going to have no focus styling when focus within is being applied. All right, let's go see what we have, what happened here. So I'm going to keyboard navigate. Oh boy, look at that. So here I am up here on CTA button. I'm going to take one more tab and look at that. We have a focused card without Alicia Keys being focused. And I can still, guys, even though the entire card is clickable, right? I can still navigate through the social icons, and those are going to announce themselves properly. Check this out. Okay, we don't want Alicia Keys in here anymore, though. We want, let's say, Joshua, right? Let's link wrapper. I've got to actually grab the heading text there. So this is going to be Joshua, Joshua Frederick. let's give him Fredericks. There we go. Joshua Fredericks. So we will do Olivia Wilde, just like that. And what we need to do is change her media. So we'll go to our headshot, we'll browse, and we'll choose her. Perfect. And then we need to make sure that this alt is not the same, right? Olivia Wilde headshot. And then here for Mr. Joshua, we're going to grab our headshot and browse for him. It's going to be this man right here. All right, come on, it's being slow. All right, and this is going to be Joshua Fredericks. Now remember, we did all this text manually, and guys, this is where I should pause and say, ideally you would do this in a repeater, right? So these would all be custom post types. You would query this. You only have to build the thing once, so you don't have to go. You can use custom fields for these types of things. So it's nice and easy. But we're going to say follow Joshua Fredericks on Facebook. So I'm going to grab that. I'm going to click here and replace this with Joshua Fredericks. Click here, replace this with Joshua Fredericks. And now here, we're going to have Olivia Wilde. So I'm going to grab her name, click here for accessibility, follow Olivia Wilde on Facebook. This is going to be follow Olivia Wilde on Twitter. And this is going to be follow Olivia Wilde on LinkedIn. Now we save, and let's actually go to the front end and see, using Apple Voiceover, how these things are announced. You guys ready? All right, let's go.
Voiceover on Firefox. Link. Follow Alicia. Link. Link. CTA button. List 3 items. Link. Heading level 3. Alicia Keys. List 3 items. Link. Follow Alicia Keys on Facebook. Link. Follow Alicia Keys on Twitter. Link. Follow Alicia Keys on LinkedIn. Link. Heading level 3. Joshua Fredericks. Link. Follow Joshua Fredericks on Facebook. Link. Follow Joshua Fredericks on Twitter. Link. Follow Joshua Fredericks on LinkedIn. Link. Heading level 3. Olivia Wilde. Link. Follow Olivia Wilde on Facebook. Link. Follow Olivia Wilde on Twitter. Link. Follow Olivia Wilde on LinkedIn. Voiceover off.
Now, before we wrap this up for good, there is one more thing that we have to take a look at. And it's something, it's kind of a hidden little problem that you may run into, because especially when you're using dummy text to kind of build this out before the client gives you actual content or before you create the actual content for the client, all of this dummy text is exactly the same length. So if I come over here and I choose, let me scroll down to Olivia here, and I'm going to grab her bio right here. And let's say her bio was a bit longer. In fact, let's do it on Joshua. Let's do it on Joshua because he's in the middle, and that'll give us a better visual representation of the problem that we're going to run into. So I'm going to choose his bio text right here. And let's just say that his bio happened to be a bit longer, like that. And let me take out that extra comma that we don't mean. I'm just throwing extra characters in left and right. So now what do you see as the problem? Let's go take a look at it on the front end. Obviously, these cards, which were the same height, are no longer the same height. So we need to make sure that they're all the same height. Now that is easy enough by putting, there's a few different ways to do this. On your wrapper, because I made this with automatic CSS utility classes, I can simply add a stretch class, and it's going to make sure that all of these stretch all the way to the bottom of the grid container itself. Alternatively, you can do a flex grow on the cards, but again, that you're gonna have to write CSS for that. If you're using the Oxygen grid builder right here, it will allow you to stretch the elements automatically. There's stretch buttons just like there is right here. So you can just click the stretch button on those grids and it'll make them stretch. I'm just going to do the easiest thing, which is throwing a stretch class on there from automatic CSS, and it's taken care of. However, this brings in a new problem. We'll go look at this on the front end just so we can see it live. So we'll refresh. Now they're all equal height, but look, the icons are not in line with each other. These sets of icons are higher because they're the same length away from the bio text, when really they need to be stuck to the bottom of the card so that they're all even across the bottom. Now, one way we can do that is probably the easiest way. Remember, we already put a gap between all of these elements, and really it's not 1, 2, 3, 4 elements. It's one element, because remember I created a body wrapper for that, and 2 elements. I created a footer, and 3 elements, which is the media wrapper, or the media container. So all I have to do here is, you can do space between, but I think we're going to run into another problem with space between. That might be the thing you think of doing first. So if I grab our card, team card, remember I'm vertical, so I can do space between. Look, it puts the icons all at the bottom, but it creates a new problem. Okay, so let's go take a look at what that is. Okay, all the icons are now aligned across the bottom, but we've lost alignment in our headings. I personally do not like that. Some people like this because it like centers the content, but I do not like it. I like all the headings to be in alignment. I like all the last elements, whatever those last elements are, to also be in alignment. So space between is not an option for us here. The better option is to grab our footer, right, which has a class on it, by the way, and I can go to margin top of auto, and that'll force those icons or the footer, whatever's in the footer, to the bottom, away from the rest of the content. And that is going to achieve everything that we want, which is headings in alignment, icons all in alignment. And that is the last thing that you want to make sure that you shore up, because again, content may give you, or the client may give you content, or you may have to create content where this guy his bio happens to be 4 lines, everybody else's bio is 3 lines. You don't want that to break your cards. So we've got keyboard navigation, all nice and neat. We've got it announcing the cards properly. Everything is golden. If we went deeper into using the screen reader, not just to show actual links here, but to actually read the content inside, it would be reading the heading first, her title, her bio, then it would be announcing her photo. Remember, because we swapped the actual HTML structure. Then it would go into her links, and then it would go on to the next person. And all of these people are grouped inside of a list. They're a list of team members, so it's an actual UL, it's actual LIs. This is how you want to think about building your cards and components, right? We're just dealing with cards right now, but various components throughout websites that need this kind of treatment. Let me go back to camera here. So as you can see, something very, very basic like a team member card actually becomes quite advanced when you start thinking more about proper HTML structure, when you start thinking about accessibility. There's a lot to know. And if you like this tutorial and you want more of this stuff and you want to be building the most structurally sound, accessible websites in Oxygen or in Bricks Builder, coming soon, lots of tutorials on Bricks, then you need to be subscribed to this channel. But I will also tell you, those really in-depth detailed tutorials are not going to be on this channel, okay? There's going to be teasers. There's going to be stuff like this that we make public, but the really in-depth stuff is inside of my inner circle. So there's a link down to the down in the description below to the inner circle. You can go get information. Super affordable. I've never raised the price on it since day one. I was supposed to raise the price 3, 4, 5 times by now because we have over 800 active members. So we need to all be on the same page that, because I get a lot of emails like, hey, can you give me a discount? Can you lower the price? And no, the price is already discounted, right? That's an entry level price that I never raised. It's the same price for everybody. So get in while the getting is good. I'm not saying it'll never go up in the future. If you get in now, though, whatever the price is, you are locked in, all right? And I have not raised it since day one. So no, you cannot get discounts. It's already discounted. But the really in-depth stuff is going to be inside of the inner circle, of course, along with agency trainings, digital marketing trainings, process trainings. It's everything that you need in there to be a successful freelancer or run an agency, building on Oxygen, building on WordPress, building on Bricks. It's in the inner circle. So that's it for this tutorial. I hope you guys learned a lot. I hope you opened your eyes to some new things that you need to be thinking about. If you have any questions, drop them down below. Hit like, hit subscribe, hit thumbs up, drop a comment. Love you guys. And I will be back very, very soon. Peace.